this feels like we're making the next Star Wars. Now I know that's dorky and it's not what happened, but there were those flashes of, oh, we're doing something really, really cool. And then those were very quickly followed by flashes of, we're going to totally fail. And, you know, up to the point that I remember walking into GameStop and they had the coming soon boxes. And they were up high on the shelf, and I looked at them, and they were surrounded by sequels, and I forget the sequels, but they were surrounded by sequels of big hits and big IPs. And I was just like, you know what, 3 years and it was a waste, because I just had this feeling that no one was going to show up for it. And so it vacillated on an hour-to-hour basis, absolutely.
So few times when you play a game and the character you just sit back and go, wow, this character is just cooler than everything. What went into the design of Kratos and how did that all pan out?
Well, I mean, it really started, the first time I had an inkling or a scratch of that character, I think, was, you know, the first thing that came up was Greek mythology. You know, I had been playing Onimusha. I had grown up with Greek mythology with the Ray Harryhausen films. I had loved it, and I remember looking at Onimusha and saying, you know, what if we did something similar, but did it instead of the Japanese history with kind of Greek mythology? And so that came first, but very quickly after, we had some success in America with Twisted Metal Black, and it was kind of an M-rated adult dark thematic, and I remember thinking, you know, swords and sandals and loincloths and shields and stuff is just not a big hit. And, you know, what if we were to kind of mix that sort of adult stability of what we were kind of beginning to explore with Metal Black, but mix it into sort of Greek mythology and do kind of a dark, twisted version of the Greek myths. And once we kind of hit on that and realized that if we were to have any commercial chances, we needed a game that really transcended the subject matter, which historically is not that successful. We needed a character in a world that really kind of got into that core gaming mindset, which, you know, even though you might be 40 or 50 or 60, a lot of times the core gaming mindset tends to be 14-year-old boys. Even if you're a grown man, you have that mentality, you know. And so then there was a sense of, okay, it's brutal, it's bloody, it's violent, it's aggressive. And from there we looked at a lot of things. I mean, we looked at, one of the first videos we looked at, we were looking at a lot of movies to try to find fight scenes that really, you know, reflected that brutality. And there was a movie Pro did that was really, we number of guys brought it to our attention. I think it was called Romper Stomper. And there was a fight scene in a bar in there, and it was just brutal. And between that and American History X and Wolverine from the comics, and sort of my own sort of inner, I don't know, anger or whatever, that's kind of where all that came from.
I realize I'm hogging all the questions. I'm sorry. Let's put it out to the forum.
Well, again, you have to understand, I'm looking at no one. So for all I know, I'm talking.
It's actually just me and one other person.
Like people in a room, and one guy's like ODing like crack. I have no clue what the environment is. So there may not be any other questions. Which is one.
Oh, you gonna get that?
No. I'll get it if you guys want to answer. We'll put it on.
Please do. Try not to distract you.
Hello?
I didn't know you'd answer.
What? You know, you're on a. This is my mom, everybody. I'm doing
Hello from Australia.
Interview in Australia with, I don't know how many people are in your audience right now. About 50?
Maybe 100.
Oh, about 100. Say hey to everybody in Australia, Mom.
Hello?
Hello. Are you proud of your son?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, you're going to talk to Em?
Yeah, she's available.
Em, you're on, right? Oh, she's not. Let me call you back when this is done.
No. I meant to sort out.
What answer do you need from her? Okay, why don't you call her on her cell phone?
Okay.
All right, bye. So that's
Well, that was slightly awkward, but let's go on.
my mom calls all the time. Okay.
David, I absolutely love God of War games and congratulations on them. But has it been very hard for you to let it go and let another team make the next one?
No, not at all. Not at all. You know, it just hasn't. I mean, I've been asked that before, and I was, you know, I really gave that game my all, and you know, I can't say I loved working on it because it was really hard, but I loved what it was, and I loved aspects of it tremendously. And even though I still have, you know, I really have an idea of what the story should be, and from the very beginning I knew where I wanted this whole series to go. But no, not at all. I'm very much a believer in kind of, you know, hitting a plateau and then going to the next thing. And so I was thrilled to be doing what I did when I left Sony, and now we're doing this game. And just, I think it was just last night, I had a little light bulb moment go off of the next game I want to do. And for the longest time after God of War, I was like, I'm kind of done with story games. And finally last night I got this idea that I said, oh my God, I have to make that next. So I really very much have appreciated that I've been afforded the luxury of being able to jump from anything that interests me to the next thing that interests me. And so no, it was quite easy to let it go.
All right, go on over there.
You mentioned that you worked on the Twisted Metal games before God of War. I'm just wondering, it's quite a different game, God of War to Twisted Metal. I'm just wondering how that whole pitch went when, you know, you pitched to Sony and you wanted to make a fighter based on Greek mythology. And were they receptive to that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, I think, with Twisted Metal Black especially, and again, I don't even know if Black was released over there. If it was released over there, I'm under the impression that a lot of territories outside of America had a lot of the storytelling stripped out because it was so, you know, I don't use the word edgy like, oh, I'm talented, but in terms of we were trying to push buttons. And so I know at least in a number of places in Europe, it shipped without any of the storytelling. But I think it was clear to my bosses that in that game, you know, so much of my passion and excitement was towards the storytelling and the world building, and the gameplay, unfortunately, in that game wasn't as strong as it could have been because so much of my energy was going there that when I came to them and pitched them what was originally called Dark Odyssey, which became God of War, you know, I had sort of already turned the boat in terms of perception of Jaffe's interested in story-based games. And so I never went to them and pitched them God of War like a fighter. It wasn't until we brought on Cory Barlog, who went on to direct God of War 2, and Derek Daniels and Eric Williams, who were really key guys in the fighting, who were like Street Fighter 2 champions and all that. It wasn't until we brought those guys on that the fighting really evolved from purely presentational. I mean, I was very happy to have fighting that was like Medieval, the Sony game, or Zelda. I was more interested in an adventure and a story and fighting that told the story of the character. But I would have never called God of War a fighter. And so because it was presented that way to my bosses, they were already kind of looking at me as the guy who wanted to do stories. But Sony, and especially my bosses there, Alan Becker and Shuhei, they've always looked at, you know, they don't really pigeonhole me. They haven't me and most people I know. So they wouldn't have been like, oh no, you're the Twisted Metal guy. I think they were more like, you're the guy who wants to do this and we trust you and we'll give you a little bit of rope and see what happens.
Come on, just a...
What kind of lessons did you learn with your previous PSN title, Calling All Cars? And would you look at doing a downloadable title in the future?
I absolutely would. I mean, I'll tell you my lessons in a second, but that just kind of set something off in my brain. I was talking the other day to some people about PlayStation Network, and I'm a huge, you know, look, I mean, I'm a huge, I like reading, look, where are they? They're all around, they're over here. But all my box games, I buy box games, and I play box games and stuff, but I'm a big digital distribution guy, and I know the PSP Go has kind of gotten slammed a little bit for business decisions, but I fucking love that, you know, I can go online. I've just been buying games like crazy, and so I love the PSN. I do want to do the game I was just telling you guys about that was sort of the light bulb moment for me last night. I'm envisioning that as a PSN title. I think PSN's gotten a bit of a weird rap only because I really think that Sony should be focusing on commercial PSN products, and I guess because, I don't know why, it's kind of gotten to be this home for kind of arty-farty stuff. And that doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, Flower was one of my